Now, Henry Winter is a football journalist and co-host of the Football Boardroom podcast. You got more than you bargained for here. You know, Europe is pushing back, saying this is not a business. What was Gianni Infantino thinking? Why couldn't he see that UEFA would push back with a boycott so quickly?
Arrogance, naivety. I mean, he should know that UEFA tend to push back against a lot of his suggestions. I mean, very shortly after FIFA announced fairly stratospherically high ticket prices for the World Cup just concluded, UEFA immediately announced that the 2028 European Championships, it would actually be reasonably priced. So look, there is a tension there. The irony in all this, almost a Shakespearean irony, is that Infantino used to work at UEFA, left the European family, and has really seemed to embedded himself or tried to embed himself in the White House, or more recently in Wall Street, in terms of getting these venture capitalists in. So your question is completely right. Why on earth didn't he think of what the reaction would be, and the arrogance of the man to actually go ahead without actually giving any of the people, as your reporter very eloquently put it, in his orbit, actually knew what he was doing. So, yeah, this is almost a Shakespearean, or it could be a Shakespearean downfall of one man who flew too close to the sun, Icarus style.
Yeah, quite dramatic, especially as we await more reaction from FIFA. As you say, Gianni Infantino's tenure at FIFA could be on the line. And yet I'm wondering from you what happens next, given this threat of a boycott, and then also obviously more meetings ongoing. I mean, kind of take us into that boardroom, because you have to say that Infantino and perhaps others at FIFA thought, look, we have had such a successful World Cup monetarily and otherwise, why not try and price it the way the NFL is priced, just to name one league?
Well, also, one of the other things that Infantino might have looked at is that he effectively gets paid $5 million in a salary and bonus annually as president of FIFA, and he probably looked around while he was in the United States and sees what some of the commissioners over there of the NFL and others, probably about sort of 10 times much. So, you know, maybe that went slightly to his head. But, you know, one of the great sadnesses is that, you know, I've just returned from the World Cup in your great country, and also in Mexico and Canada, the 10th World Cup I've covered, and it was a really good World Cup. I mean, some of the football was fantastic. The right team won. Spain with Rodri, absolutely magnificent. And there was some really good football, some great stories. And also, in a slightly tense world, a lot of these fans just simply got on with each other. And it was great to see nation sort of speak peace unto nation. So it was a good World Cup. And really, he should have been celebrating that rather than running off to his venture capitalist mates and seeing how he could generate more money. For a competition and a World Cup, he doesn't own it. The World Cup does not belong to President Infantino. It belongs to the world. It belongs to Rodri. It belongs to Mbappe. It belongs to all the players, all the fans. You know, it's a global thing. It's not up to him. It's not in his gift to sell off.
You make such a good point, too, that, you know, despite all the controversies, that World Cup was highly successful in the sense that it really elevated the experience and the game, despite all the concerns about ticket prices and other things. So what does FIFA do now, though? Because is there really a choice? So many of the federations have pushed back here.
Yeah, I mean, CONCACAF coming out was very significant a couple of hours ago. 41 member associations there. I mean, they didn't go as far as UEFA and say that they were going to boycott FIFA events, but they categorically rejected to it. So, again, it is a little elbow in the face of Infantino. So if you do the maths, 41 CONCACAF members, 55 European members, assuming they do vote the way that they've said in those two boardrooms that they would vote, and there was unanimity on both counts. My maths is terrible, but it gives them within about 10 votes from around the world, which are very much likely to come, to actually kiboshing this plan of Infantino's. He needs 106 votes. And of course, you then fast forward, as your reporter was rightly saying, to March, where there is another election for him, which he thought would have been a ceremonial one. He would have just sort of turned up, waved, and won in a landslide. That is not the case now, particularly if UEFA put a powerful candidate forward to stand against Infantino.
Well, Henry Winter, we did not expect football to be in the boardroom so quickly after the successful games on the pitch. But here we are. We will continue to follow the drama, of course, over the next few days. Grateful to you. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.